Okay, little guy. I'm happy to see you too. I didn't know when I'd see you again.
Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Din Djarin and Grogu are back together again, and all is good with the world. After Luke took Grogu at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, the lingering question on my mind was, when are the father and son going to reunite? And I assumed that it would be a while before Din and Grogu were back together, at the very least, like late Season 3. But it just happened in the Book of Boba Fett. In my opinion, Din's reunion with Grogu was the best part of the Book of Boba Fett's finale. It just shows the strength of this emotional connection and how much we care about these two. I mean, you can't really split them apart for too long. Right now, they are the heart and soul of Star Wars. And it's fitting as Din and Grogu blast off into Season 3 in search of a new purpose after them both getting kicked out of their orders. But I can't help but think that they kind of rushed this reunion.
What?
Season 2 was all about Din finding a Jedi to train Grogu. So once Luke took Grogu away, it was a bittersweet ending, but a natural progression for the story. But now, that powerful goodbye sort of amounts to not much. In Season 2, they go their separate ways, and now Season 3 will start with them back together again, as if nothing changed. Now look, before you get mad at me, I'm not disappointed that Din and Grogu are back together. I'm very happy that it happened. I'm just disappointed by how quickly it happened. There was so much story left on the table. They had a fantastic arc for Season 3. So allow me to explain why this reunion felt rushed and why Din and Grogu needed to stay apart for a little longer.
Where's the little guy? Back with his own folk. That's too bad. I guess we both lost something we were fond of.
Ever since Season 1, Mando always had the kid by his side. We've witnessed their connection develop, becoming stronger and more emotional.
He means more to me than you will ever know.
That's why their goodbye in Season 2 was so devastating. This was an essential shift for The Mandalorian because, as much as I love this relationship, something had to change. Otherwise, the show would have become stagnant. I mean, every episode was a story about Din and Grogu traveling to a new planet and meeting some new people, so it was going to get a little old. Other than a few very brief moments, we've never seen Din and Grogu on their own. That's what Season 3 was building up to be, a story where these two characters have to face the struggles of being separated. And I can't help but wonder, what even was the point of the ending of Season 2 after the Book of Boba Fett? Grogu goes away to college for a little bit, he gets homesick, and he's right back with his daddy as if he never left.
I'm back!
It just feels a bit wasteful, as if Lucasfilm changed their minds about Season 2 and just used the Book of Boba Fett to undo it before Season 3 started. Not to mention that the execution of the reunion felt a little lackluster. Now, while it was emotional, Book of Boba Fett had so many moving parts, so many plot threads they had to tie together, and this reunion pretty much stole all the focus from Boba's story, who honestly had a pretty uneven season to begin with.
I want to ride it like a panther.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
But not to sound like a hater, I'm sure that there is a plan in place. So far, the creative team behind The Mandalorian has not disappointed, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And we knew that Grogu would be back with his dad sooner or later because he couldn't stay in Luke's Jedi Academy for too long on account of the whole Kylo Ren massacre. That being said, I was really looking forward to Din going solo in Season 3. It felt like the natural progression for his story. We needed to spend most of Season 3 with Din and Grogu apart until they realize that they can't live without each other and they reunite. That's how great stories are made. Characters need conflicts, they need challenges, things that fundamentally change them. When two characters go their separate ways, they need to stay apart. I mean, at least for a while. Otherwise, what's the point to separate them in the first place?
Five minutes later.
Now, the reason Din let Grogu go in Season 2 is because up to that point, this was his mission.
You must reunite it with its own kind.
But once he understands just how important Grogu is,
He's no longer in your care. He's with his own kind now.
I want to see him. Make sure he's safe.
and by Grogu choosing the Beskar shirt over the lightsaber, he chooses to be back with his father. So their separation was a kind of lesson. Neither of them wants to stay apart from the other. But for me, Episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett served as a fascinating prelude for what could have been Mandalorian Season 3. I love that his struggle with the Darksaber represented his complicated emotional state after losing Grogu. The thing about Din is that he's lived most of his life alone. He had the other foundlings, but they weren't really his family. Grogu was his first family connection. It's the very thing that helped Din open up and befriend others. Without his kid, Din would revert back to his old life. Because when people deal with heart-crushing breakups, they seek familiarity, something to reassure them. So he goes back to being a ruthless bounty hunter and returns to the Children of the Watch. Din's connection with Grogu has fundamentally changed him. He can never be the nameless Mandalorian again, a man who roams the galaxy, hunting down bounties, living 1 parsec at a time.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
And we saw just how much Din has changed when he chose his adopted son over the Mandalorian code. Their connection showed Din that there is more to life than the Mandalorian way. And we saw the repercussions of that decision when Din was kicked out of his cult. His sect.
Have you ever removed your helmet?
I have.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
So naturally, he goes after Grogu just to see him once more. And then realizing that he can't see Grogu anymore, Din chooses to sacrifice his own personal happiness, letting Grogu go. When he leaves Grogu with Luke, Din knows that it's the final goodbye, and the two of them will likely never see each other again. This choice needed to have stronger consequences. We needed to see how that choice affected Din in the long term.
I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
Having them just reunite the next episode feels like a waste of a perfectly good story. And this is something that I wanted Season 3 to explore. What becomes of Din without Grogu? There's so much to explore there. What will he do now? Go back to being a bounty hunter? Travel to Mandalore to achieve redemption? What is his purpose now? Din was brainwashed by the Children of the Watch, and despite removing his helmet, Din is fully devoted to the Creed.
You really buy into that bantha fodder?
He can't just turn his back on the only life he ever knew. For him, it will be a betrayal for the people who saved him as a boy, who took him in and gave him purpose. So now, Din has an identity crisis. Grogu was the first truly positive force in Din's life. He served as Din's moral compass. Remember how back in Season 1, Din just disintegrated those Jawas like a savage? Thanks to Grogu, Din's empathy was awakened. He learned to trust others, even overcoming his droid hate. And come to think of it, the Book of Boba Fett served as a powerful moral lesson for Din. Boba Fett used to be a ruthless bounty hunter, forged by the identity of his father. But now he found a new purpose, thanks to honor and loyalty. While on the other hand, there's Cad Bane, a cold-blooded killer who works alone, serving only himself. And in the end, by killing Bane, Boba proves which way is better, a lesson for Din to learn what he should do next. That's actually kind of brilliant when you think about it. Din was willing to die for his friends. He says he's following the Creed, but in truth, Din is a good guy, so he's just doing the right thing. It's his evolution, leaving the bounty hunter life behind, finding a new purpose among friends, just like Boba Fett. This is why Din needed to go on his own journey, find his true self. It's easy for him to be more friendly and caring with Grogu around. But the real challenge here would have been for him to be alone for a while. Can he learn from all his changes and forge a new identity, or is he too brainwashed by his cult, so he needs Grogu by his side to keep him from regressing?
You make me want to be a better man.
And to complicate things, we know that Bo-Katan is coming for that blade, and now it's clear why it's so crucial for her to win it in battle.
Bo-Katan is a cautionary tale. She once laid claim to rule Mandalore based purely on blood and the sword you now possess. But it was gifted to her and not won by Creed. They lost their way, and we lost our world.
They might have been allies in the past, but as long as Din has the blade, they are enemies. The Darksaber is like the one true ring.
Must have the precious.
The power that comes with it is heavy and destined to corrupt its wielder. Din doesn't want to rule Mandalore, but can he resist the temptation of becoming the ruler of Mandalore? After all, being a Mandalorian was his life, and now that he's been cast out, maybe the only way to reclaim the title of Mandalorian is to become the ruler of Mandalore. But at the same time, it would have been awesome to see Grogu spend more time with Luke, training as a Jedi and learning about the past. Because we want to learn about that mysterious past. Who saved him during Order 66? How did he end up with those Nikto in Season 1? I mean, there's so much to unpack. But also, we needed to see how Grogu deals with his separation from Din. He chose to leave with Luke in Season 2, but maybe, because he's a baby, he resents Din for leaving him, for never visiting him.
Ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him?
We know how dangerous attachments can be for Jedi. So if Grogu feels abandoned, that might be the start of his path to the dark side. Now I admit that the thought of Grogu going all evil is not something I even want to think about, but it would still have been an interesting direction. Also, if Season 3 is about Din finding his identity and purpose, then the same should happen with Grogu. So far, Grogu has been a very adorable baby, but it's time for him to grow up a bit and develop. He needs his own agency, make his own decisions. As painful as it is to say, Grogu can't stay a cute little baby forever. Change is fundamental for storytelling and character development. So here's an idea for how the reunion could have played out in Season 3. Din is hunted by the other Mandalorians, all wanting to take the Darksaber away from him. Also, remember that the Empire still wants Grogu, so they will go after Din because he can lead them to Grogu. So, while Din is in serious trouble, Grogu will sense his daddy's distress through the Force, and he decides to leave Luke and the Jedi Order because he needs to help his daddy. And he ends up deciding to stay with Din because he understands the two of them are better off together. Plus, Luke was no fun. With all of his rules and training, things are so much more fun and exciting with Din.
Let's see you jump.
Also, Grogu leaving the Jedi Order this way is a parallel to Luke in The Empire Strikes Back, where he leaves Yoda to be with his friends. I mean, that's Star Wars. Each generation repeats the choices of the previous one. Grogu needs to continue the new Jedi tradition, a Jedi who trains with an old grumpy master for like a week and then leaves to become a Jedi off on his own. I mean, Grogu might not have gotten a lightsaber, but he could be heir to the Darksaber.
Have the precious.
So yes, this is why I think Din and Grogu needed to stay apart for a little longer. There was so much story potential, and it's a shame that this won't be explored in Season 3. That being said, I trust in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and I'm sure that they have something special in store for us. So what do you think? Did this reunion happen too soon, or are you just happy that Din and Grogu are back together? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.